Let's go.
Welcome to WIP The Podcast, straight from Amsterdam, live from the canals. Well, not live, but you know what I mean. And I just always wanted to say that. Mm-hmm. So today we are talking about a couple of things. We're talking about sales funnels. We're talking about the Decel Mindset, the dreaded Decel Mindset. I'm talking about throughput and volume and how important that is when you're bootstrapping an agency. We dive into some esoteric rabbit holes and more of that. So my name is Piepenbrock.
I'm Botman.
And this is WIP The Podcast. So, brother, what's on your mind?
Well, let's talk about throughput.
Sure.
What are you thinking about?
Yeah, no, we were talking about it the other day. And, something that I experienced at my former agency is the importance of throughput when you're not quite there yet. So when you're really bootstrapping an agency with a small core team, and there's a lot of creative stuff going on at your agency, then the importance of throughput, having enough projects in your pipeline, just going through projects, doing things wrong, making things right, troubleshooting, iterating, experimenting, stepping over the fear of doing something that you, for example, have never done before is very important. It's much more important for me than endlessly discussing with customers over nickels and dimes or, being in fear of not having the capacity or the skill set or the tool set or whatever. And the reason is that when you have insufficient throughput, especially for teams that rely largely on creativity, the team morale just decreases rapidly and everything stagnates, and every intrinsic hunger of testing, experimenting, childlike curiosity for new tools, being constantly on your feet and thinking about how to add value to your ICP, that all diminishes with a lack of throughput. So my rule is when you're just starting an agency and you're bootstrapping the hell out of it, it is much more important to have sufficient volume of projects where you do all kind of things wrong than having no projects at all and having just a team that is idle. I've never seen anything that is so detrimental to team morale and creativity and sort of that narrows the vision of people as much as a lack of throughput. Do projects all the time, even if the margins are suboptimal. Then again, of course, parallel to that, you always have to iterate. You have to be obsessed with iteration, obsessed with adding little pieces and bits of value for your ICP with every move that you make. And I think if you have that combination and you have a little bit of runway, or maybe you're very close to the end of your runway, it doesn't even matter. You just have to stick through it and get those projects rolling and going. Then when you're well positioned and you have sort of a V1 structure of your service offerings, of your processes, of your core team, if you feel like, okay, now I'm pretty well positioned in the market or in the niche that I want to make a difference, then you can shift that obsession to margin optimization, efficiency and all of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it counts for a lot of things, right? Whether you are building like a SaaS business or whether you're building a productized service business or bespoke service, doesn't really matter. You need to get stuff in to tweak the service, tweak the product. I agree. I think it's good to just get a bunch of business in and just like tweak the system along the way. Because you need to go through iterations, and the more action happens, the more things you learn, the quicker you iterate, the better the throughput of your business is eventually.
Absolutely. And it's also very much about stepping over the fear of doing something wrong or not being able to do it. And of course, you have to have a founder that is confident enough to back you on this, right? Because, for example, when you take a project on and there's some elements in there that are quite new for you, but you have the curiosity and sort of the will to learn it as you go and tweak it as you go, there can always go something wrong. That's perfectly fine. So you need to have a founder or someone who backs you towards the customer, and that can confidently say to the customer, listen, you're right, we're going to fix this, we're doing this with good intention, etc. Never throw your team under the bus. So yeah, of course, the team has to feel that backing. That's very important as well. But it's just a matter of, Yeah, it's just a matter of staying away from the Decel mindset, right?
Yeah, I was
Just-
already thinking this ties into that mindset thing you were talking about. Like, yeah, what do you think? What do you feel about that?
You read my tweet, right?
I did read your tweet. I think it's very true, and especially nowadays, the market that we operate in. I mean, there's so much competition from indie builders, technology, and I think if you, let's say, you take NoCo, if you're just like, I don't know, like if you just, let's say you're just a Webflow agency, what is your special sauce? You know, like it became a commodity within like a couple of years.
For sure.
So it's either innovate or die kind of attitude that you need to carry with you, and otherwise you're just like one of many.
Yeah.
And that comes to you can I think you can look at the proposition that way, but you can also look at like the tools that you're using in that way. And I think if you're not doubling down on a certain niche that is working for you, so in the case of NoCo, SaaS and tech businesses, which you guys can service very well, you need to become the very best in that, but at the same time you also want to become the very best in choosing the right tools to get the best result for customers within the least amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're referring to with the Decel mindset.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and this is me making such a bold statement because I know it was a pretty bold tweet and maybe a little bit abrasive as well. But it's not like I'm making that statement because I know everything. I've actually made this mistake for years in a row in the past. The fear of, I've always had a curiosity mindset and a sort of forward-thinking mindset, but there were many times and periods where I fell into the same pitfall of basically letting the fear of doing something new take over, and maybe sometimes a little bit of complacency. For example, when you have a couple of big customers, and you know what that is, they give you a cushy, foundation to go on, right? You have sort of a predictable baseline of revenue, and everything that comes on top of that is almost a bonus. And that's why I also think that a bit of healthy churn is also very important. And that is also overcoming a fear, because the fear of losing a customer is often something that a lot of people do everything to avoid that. Which is good to a certain extent, but sometimes you're just end of life cycle with a customer. So I think it's also good to have some churn there, because that also initiates or sparks a little bit more of that innovative and experimental mindset, because you have to reposition yourself, you have to move, you have to do stuff, you have to go out and get business, you have to tweak your offerings. But not to digress too much. Now, what I basically said is, like, if you want to work with me in an agency, and I really have to sense a childlike curiosity to test every tool, method, or offering that could add value to our ICP. That's so important. It should all start there. It should never start with, we don't know how to do this, it isn't in our scope, etc. It should always start with, you chose your ICP or you chose your niche. How can I add value there, and does it fit, into our sort of why or into our purpose? If it's all the way outside there, of course you can consider not doing it. But within your specialty, there are endless elements that are constantly moving and being innovated in the market. Man, I see such impressive solopreneurs, and they're coming from everywhere now. They're coming from Africa, India, South America, the Middle East, doesn't matter. Every kid with a laptop and a decent internet connection, and a couple of bucks to spend for tools and software and stuff like that, they can do so much now. It's incredible. I saw this guy from Africa just casually banging GSAP animations, for Webflow. Some guy from a West African country, in his village, for example. It's just incredible to see, and I love it. And for example, at NoCo, I think we do have an edge, so I'm not worried about that. But I'm a forward-thinking person, so I look 2 years from now, 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and it's very important to keep that edge. And there are so many opportunities with the customer base that we have, with the great team that we have. with Jelle, who's a great guy to work next to. Man, we have so many possibilities to increase our edge even, or find different edges. And we are doing that. It's just, for me, it's also a reminder to myself, constantly reminding the team and myself, relentless, obsessive iteration and looking for more value for your ICP. That's basically it.
Yeah.
And I want our Slack to be oozing with articles, links in the appropriate channels, of course, articles, links, tools, experiments, asking for time to do experiments. And the answer is always, do you think it can add value to our ICP? If the answer is yes, go for it. Block your time, go do it. So that culture, I love it. It gives me so much energy. And I think we're doing a decent job of it, but I think there's much more to gain. And that's one of the most exciting things, being at NOCO now for 1.5, 2 months. And just pushing on with it. But yeah, no Decel mindset, no room for that, not a culture fit.
Yeah, about that. You are now like 1.5, 2 months with NOCO. Last week you closed your first deal for it. How did that feel?
That felt surprisingly good. I think it's like the postmodern equivalent of shooting a deer or something and feeding your family. So that's the closest we get right now. So no, I had a little sabbatical and for several months actually, also for some personal circumstances. So, to be honest with you, so the first day starting here, we said like, okay, September is going to be a little bit of a transition month, but I soon learned that doesn't work like that for me, and probably also not for you. You either
you're on or off. Right?
That's crazy. Yeah. So been working 10, 12, 14-hour days ever since, and just being at the office, and I'm loving it. And it only took me a couple of days to really get in that groove again after a solid 7-8 months of doing little. Doing very little. So that was great already, and it surprised me like how quickly I was in that flow again, and also how much I never want to let that go again.
Yeah, weren't you surprised when you got back in it, realizing like how much you lost of that edge you have in like putting in the grind every day, like it gives you a certain state of mind, and then when you I got it when I take a month of holiday and I come back and I'm already, oh shit, I gotta get back into it,
we need the suffering for sure. That's just it's a little bit of a masochist thing as well, so to speak. We just need the suffering. It's great to relax and to travel a little bit and be in the sun. That's all great, but I really miss the grind and being here with a couple of like-minded guys and girls, and just banging every day, it's just great. It's a great feeling to just have a common purpose and then just go after it every day and just joke around at the office and just work very hard and constant exchange of ideas. I mean, there's something magical about that energy when you're in the same room together with a couple of people who want the same thing or have the same level of motivation. This magic happens. So I'm very happy that we have the beautiful office in Amsterdam. We have a largely remote team, so we're also trying to keep them sort of engaged with in other ways, and by bringing them over for every quarter if we did well and stuff like that, and just engaging them. We're going to build a community, something I want to talk about to you as well. I want to pick your brain about it as well. So, and then closing the first deal, which is a really cool customer actually, felt great, man. I missed the rush. Yeah, I missed the rush. And the rush and people, just having that little tiny moment of celebration with the rest of the team. It's just fun. I don't know. It's just fun. It's not more complicated than that. So I look forward to the next ones. Well, things are looking fairly good. So yeah,
pipeline is filled up pretty well.
Yep.
And that all based on one go-to-market motion, which is now only paid media.
Yes.
Which is just a terrible thing to do because you're so dependent on one pillar.
Sure,
maybe we can zoom in on that a little bit, like because we're now.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask you, because I know you have been spamming me a little bit with a video that you watched, and I apologize, but I didn't see it yet. But something tells me that after this podcast, I don't have to anymore because you're going to tell me all about it. It's about sales funnels, right?
It is about sales funnels, and it's again. I think I talked about that guy last week as well, Greg Eisenberg. He interviewed this guy from AJ and Smart. which I've been following for a while, that company, because they were quite early on with the design sprint, Google Ventures design sprint methodology. And all of a sudden I saw his name pop up with Greg Eisenberg on Twitter, X, whatever. It was about sales funnels. So I watched it because I thought the guy was interesting, because I never really hear the guy speak that often. And I knew AJ and Smart, was like, okay, let's give this a listen. But yeah, he is talking about this, building all these different online sales funnels for like hyper-specific topics. And it kind of like opened my eyes to that, because he was saying like often people copy like the front of businesses and then they wonder like, why is it not working? So let's say someone copies the website of NoCo and they expect the same results, but they don't know what's behind it, you know? They don't know what your ad strategy is. They don't know all the things that you are doing to rake in leads, right? And that kind of like piqued my interest, because the AJ and Smart website, I think they recently updated it, but that was not, it was not like the best website you could see. And then he was talking about certain funnels that were online since 2020 that raked in 20 million of revenue, lifetime value, then over the entire lifetime of that funnel. But it's still quite insane. And I think I was in the car, came from Belgium, from a potential customer, and I was like, yeah, damn, man, all these conversations that I have with these high-ticket potential customers, they're all the same, right? They all come from like, let's say you got like a couple of customer groups that you focus on, and within each group, you got like X amount of ways that a project starts. And instead of just putting all your time in real life in that, why don't you just educate these people in the online sales funnel? So yeah, I just started thinking about it. I jotted some ideas down, talked with our marketing about how we can fix this, because it is in line with the strategy we have to get rid of the founder-led sales that we currently are leaning on heavily.
Yeah, at least the outbound sales of it. No, sure.
So yeah, it's early stage.
So what are your ideas? Because you say it's early stage, but I know that you already were jotting some ideas down. Something you want to share about that? So what are you thinking of, for example, for Eli 5, which is a software studio, which is the sister agency of NoCo, the parent agency and the sister agency. What do you have brewing?
Well, I'm not like, I didn't go that much into the specifics of things. So I mean, my mind went there a little bit, like thinking, I don't know, some things start from trouble around like solution architecture, not knowing how to do that, you know, before you start a project. Some customers start with like they are in dire need of validation for their product. So I mean, I can come up with like the most common topics that we discuss prior to a project that is starting. But I was more thinking about like how can we create this, you know, the right way. So I think you just need to get going, and maybe with these kind of things, same with like if you want to write a bunch of content to up your game on SEO, for example. I think it's good to have like a bit of a Kickstarter phase, so to say. You know, you could say, okay, I'm gonna do this every week for like 4 hours, but I think it's so much. You gotta figure things out, like how does it work? You know, like how do I build a sales funnel, for example? Because I don't know, I never built one. So I know you got like solutions like lead pages, and you got like then applications.
Yeah, the tools are not the issue here.
Yeah, but you gotta figure things out. And I think if you got like, I don't know, like book 1 week and just put yourself with another person who is specialized in this or wants to be specialized in this in one room, and just figure it out and just create the first sales funnels, like record those videos, write that copy, create those drip campaigns, write those hooks for the ads that you want to generate traffic with, just to figure things out. And then after that, you can just start doing it in like a couple hours per week to add another one, to optimize one. You know, like I need this Kickstarter.
Basically,
week or so.
just get going, just do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's always a work in progress. That's why we named the podcast the way we did it. So, and yeah, that's interesting. Well, keep us posted, and I'm sure the podcast is also a good place to brainstorm some ideas, because I'm with you on this one. So another pillar that we are trying to use is basically the podcast. So we are both founders. We are both very much into the day-to-day things of our businesses still. And this is a common problem for a lot of entrepreneurs, is that you do not find the time to write or make the content. And a podcast, we see the podcast as a very frictionless way of doing it, because it's basically just us doing what we always do, talking about business, life, self-improvement, and our leadership, and all the things that we find interesting and important. And we just sit down, we record it. So you have a full podcast episode. That's the long form content generation. You transcribe it, you put it in GPT, you generate topics to write about, and then you put your own human touch to it. Obviously, you break down the podcast episode into multiple clips that you caption automatically nowadays, that you brand automatically nowadays with AI, and you just put them all in your content calendar, and there you go. You're flooding your platform or your profile with content. That's kind of the founder brand model, right? That's how the guy, sorry for not knowing his name by heart. I went boxing this morning.
Sorry, I missed that one. What?
Oh yeah, no, that's kind of the founder brand model, right?
Oh, that okay,
So,
yeah. The name of the writer, you mean?
The name of the author. I apologize.
No more boxing before the podcast.
I went boxing. I took a few good hits on the head, so probably that's why I lost some thoughts. But he basically started like that. He was the CMO at a software startup, and the founder was always busy. So he was just figuring out, okay, so how can I generate content with this guy, this founder who has all this knowledge, who has a great vision, who's great to talk about. So he just sat him down. He just sat him down every week or month or bi-weekly, I don't even know, and just let him talk. He prepared a bunch of questions for the founder, and the founder was just talking. He would record everything, and that was his content repository.
But that's how we started. I mean, we put the phone down, record a conversation, and just grab an hour or 1.5 or 2 to just discuss things that are on our minds. I think it's a great way to get going with content creation, because like you did it as well. You upload the transcript of the conversation we had, and GPT comes with a whole bunch of topics you can actually dive into and write about.
Absolutely.
And yeah, regarding this whole topic, I also feel there's this thing very much applicable to this, which is like the quote of Naval, like, hard choices, easy life. No, I'm saying that wrong.
I don't know the quote by heart, but we can look it up for you.
No, it's like hard choices, easy life. So let's say if you you want to get in more business in your company, what are the things you're going to do? It's quite the threshold to start recording a podcast and put your face online. It's quite high, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you look at other ways of doing it, the threshold to start some cheesy cold outreach campaign is quite low.
Yeah.
I think
it's mostly psychological threshold.
Yeah, 100%. But this is the thing I'm trying to get across. So if you are like constantly doing like those easy things, then eventually your life becomes harder. And if you are now just like, you can see it all around you, the people that are daring to make the hard choices, to do the hard things, to put their face online, to create a podcast like we are doing. I find it quite sometimes a bit scary, but eventually, if you keep on going and you put this effort in, week in, week out, eventually life becomes easier.
Absolutely.
And in this case, then business becomes easier.
It's sort of, it reminds me of the quote I like: discipline equals freedom. That's basically the same thing. So if you keep it if you do the right things, do them disciplined and consistently, then it sets you free from a lot of constraints or troubles that you don't want to have in your life. I looked it up actually. You're half right. So Naval posted this quote, but it is actually a quote from Jerzy Gregorek from the Happy Body, and it's easy choices, hard life, hard choices, easy life.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that. And I think you were saying but the threshold of putting your face online and all of that, but it's even hard for people who want to start writing on LinkedIn. Now, I mean, don't get me started about how saturated that is right now, even though I think you can still make a difference, but I think it's also very cringe sometimes. But still, and this is what a friend of mine, Joost, his name is, he has a content agency. They're doing quite well. And he pulled up the statistic when I talked to him the other week about how only 2% of people on LinkedIn actually contribute content, like real, actual, authentic content.
And the rest are lurking.
Yes, the rest are lurking. So even though it looks very saturated, it actually really isn't if you find your edge or your niche or whatever. It's just that, I like this format much better because I love to have just deep and endless conversations with people I find interesting. We do this a lot. We have been doing this for a couple of years now. So for me, this is actually the lowest threshold of all the things you can think of putting yourself out there. And now with all the help of AI tools, I mean, we added this podcast in Descript. And there's these magical, there's this AI assistant called Underlord. So not Overlord, but Underlord. Nice touch, Descript. Shout out to Descript. Who just who just searches your highlights, identifies the speaker, searches your highlights, and cuts them up for you. And then you can tweak them, manually. And you can just export and you have 20 highlights from your podcast episode.
Yeah. That's also a big part of it. I mean, to constantly needing to put time in edits or like getting a thing ready to publish, like you want to have that, you want to minimize that.
Sure.
But yeah, you could outsource it. But I think, it's nice that you got this thing set up this way.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, you could easily outsource it.
I already outsourced it.
Yeah, I know. It might be something that we would still do in the future because, why not? But for now, it's fine. It's fine. And this is also the thing where you just have to start. So I spent half a day just looking for the right tool. Wanted to use Riverside, which is a great tool, but it doesn't have multi-track audio and video, so it's nothing really we can do with it, or not in the way we want to. Moved on to Descript, followed some tutorials, and there you go. But then again, what counts for us goes for everyone, right? So we are happy that we can use AI now to speed things up, but that also means that 100 million kids from around the world can do the same thing.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I love seeing it, man. I love connecting with it. This is one thing that I wanted to touch upon as well. It's about community. So I wrote another tweet. I mean, they're basically just notes for me to to look up when we talk about it. Because
Twitter is basically just a note-taking app, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I'm just read it out because I want to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah. I see an active, vibrant community as vital for any successful agency. Successfully ran this for my former agency, so me, with frequent touch points and even some physical meetups. We have a Slack community channel at NoCo Agency, open for anyone freelancing in web design, UI, UX design, no-code, low-code development for Webflow, Framer, or whatever, or with other skill sets like animation, motion, GSAP, copywriting, whatever, anything that is in the realm of what we as an agency do. Experience or interest in the SaaS and tech realm is not a requirement for me, but it would be cool because it's kind of connects you a little bit more. Keeping the channel fresh, active, and full of life and value for everyone hasn't been a priority up until now, but I'm looking to change that. So this was basically a little announcement just to test the waters. But I see an active, vibrant community as vital for any successful agency. I truly believe in that. I have some reasons for it, but I just want to hear your thoughts about it.
I think the same. I mean, you can get pretty far with just a small team. Without like a community around it, but I think it's good to always connect with like-minded people. So basically the topic that we were talking about earlier regarding the mindset, it's always nice to just like
it ties directly into that topic actually for me.
Yeah, I think so too. So but in case of NoCo, I think it's I mean, that industry is quite fast moving. Lots of new ways to do certain things. You know, like it's good to have all these experts from development, from design, maybe from like other industries than SaaS and tech. 100%. But I always think like, how do you? I'm not a star in this. You know, like how do you build that community? That's more like my question that I have.
Yeah.
Because I can see the value of it, but then how do you build it? Like, do you build like some? I've been part of like multiple things, like from Telegram channels to Slack or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But like, how do you build it? You know, like how would you do it?
Yeah, there's no magic bullet, but I think that if you're building it with the mindset of gaining something from it directly, then you will probably not succeed in building a community. It's the same with your offerings. If you craft your offerings to see how can I make money without starting how can I add value to my ICP, it's the same thing as you have to start with how can I add value to the community, or else they won't engage with you. And I can't blame them. They're right. I wouldn't either. So you can all throw them in a Slack channel or something. But if there are no cool touch points or little bits and pieces of value that you frequently throw in there, or engage with them by asking interesting questions, thought-provoking stuff, using it also if you have the need for some flexible capacity, which is definitely something I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
Just to shake things up a little bit as well. You throw some projects in there. You get people to engage with each other. Maybe new stuff. Maybe even a new business or agency comes from that. And so what if it has overlap with yours, or if it's who cares? Yeah. I have zero fear for that. Just so, creating value for the community as you create value for your ICP. I think that's the thing. And then how you do that practically, I don't know. It's also a little bit the nature of the person. I'm a creative by nature. I'm curious like a child. So I always like to talk to people. So for example, I just put a post on X like a couple of days ago that we were interested in some more Webflow developers. And then you get all these DMs, right? And I actually read the DMs. I do that super quickly. It doesn't cost me any time, and it also doesn't cost me any effort to. So, when I ask a guy like, "Hey, okay, it looks cool. Your work looks good. Where are you from?" And he tells me I'm from Nigeria. I'm generally interested. Oh, cool. I still have the plan sometime to visit some countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya. I want to see some of Africa in the future. So just talk a little bit about him. And I just ask a specific question about his project because I'm genuinely interested at that moment. And now, so how do you gather all this information without it costing time? I have a GPT thread set up with a number of Excel cells. And the thread knows that if I dump raw information, so a link to a portfolio website, a name, an email address, whatever, just raw information, a little bit of a description that one of the guys sent me in a DM, I just dump it in there raw, and GPT knows, it just spits out the cells. I copy paste it into our master sheet, and there you go.
But does it happen every time you add something to the Excel, or it automatically gets pushed to GPT, or what? Well,
that's the next step, of course. But for now, it's like it's literally one copy paste action. So I just copy raw bits of information that I find, including links. I just throw it all in that GPT thread, and it right away spits out the cells that I need. And so I have a number of tabs for developers, designers, illustrators, etc., etc., etc. I just copy paste it in there, and then it slowly but surely builds up. Sometimes I add a note to it. I tag Jelle. So, hey, can you review his work? Or can you do this or do that? Worth a call? Yes, no, is the answer I'm getting back. And that's how you slowly but surely build that up. And it's an ongoing process. I really see this as something that I spend 3 minutes on daily or 5 minutes on daily every day.
Yeah.
And I saw at my former agency, Gobsmacked, what that can do for you. We had, at some point, we called it the Neon Squad because, I don't know, it was just, I like to name things. Like I like to name productized services, and you do as well.
Got to brand it, man.
Yeah, I just love branding. I love coming up with names for stuff. So we had the Neon Squad, and it was mostly cinematography-based, design-based, highly creative stuff, animation-based. And at some point, you just felt a community growing because they liked what we did. We had like a batch of neon gin, gobsmack neon gin that we brew because we had some guys in the building that they brew gin, which is pretty cool. And you could label it customly, you could brand it. So we sent it out for Christmas to a number of the community members, etc., etc. Try to do some physical meetups as well. Obviously engage them in some of the projects that we did. And then, of course, cinematography is also highly collaborative, right? You always have to assemble a crew for every project. So you have a gaffer, you have a director, whatever. So the nature of that business is already to be very active with the community. Yeah. But it was very important for us to boost quality of projects, to get the projects executed. It's just, it's very hard to explain. It was just a warm environment around us of people of genuine mutual appreciation for the work that one or the other did. Yeah. And that is definitely something I'm putting some focus on at NoCo as well. Yeah. And it because it just inspires your core team as well. If you see an outside person or artist or whatever or creative do something special or test something and you see them post about it and they share it with you, it could spark your mind as well. Like, I'm going to dive into that and this. So I don't know. It's very organic, but I feel like for an agency, a good community, a vibrant community is important. Yeah, but then you want it to be aligned with your business. And in this case also, like, are you operating globally or locally, right? So NoCo is mostly remote. You got some people here at the office. But most of the people work somewhere else in Europe or and most of the customers are in the States and the UK. Exactly. So I think like physical events, you can host something like a physical event. I mean, I'm quite like familiar with that. I used to like do FIFA tournaments at the office. You had some wild parties here at the office. Some wild parties. That as well. But I know how to do that locally. And I've seen how I see how people are doing it online. But for me, I've always wondered, like, how would I do that for ELAB 5? And for ELAB 5 is maybe like a little less necessary. I think with NoCo, it fits more in my. I think it fits more to NoCo. But how would you do it? Like, how do you do this online? Like, sure. Yeah. You need to come up with like interesting things to keep on sharing. Then there needs to be an incentive for them to keep on logging in to whatever tool you're using. Like how would you, like, do you have thoughts about that? Yeah, I do. I mean, again, it all starts with creating a spot where actually value gets dropped. So we do great projects. I mean, and because we're an agency, we are able to handle some thanks, man. Keep it. Let's keep hydrated. So I mean, we definitely have something to offer there because we are an actual agency. We work with some pretty impressive brands in the B2B SaaS and tech realm. I notice that people appreciate our work. It's maybe a little bit more of a large scale project because and a larger relationship because we also have a team who services all our subscription clients. So whenever they did a 0 to 1 website sprint, a lot of them, they go into a subscription because they want to constantly iterate and stuff. And we have a team for that. We have processes for that. I can see that for example, freelance dudes and gals, I know they see the project that we do, and I feel a genuine appreciation, as I have appreciation for what they are doing and how fast they're learning and trying and using new tools and stuff. Because the thing with freelancers is that they are even more lean, right? They can just experiment they can just take a couple of days in a certain week to just go all out and go full autist on a new tool. That is not something that you generally are able to do to that extent operating within a team at an agency. So I don't know, it's just a very natural fit for me to have a vibrant community of freelancers. But to answer your question, yeah, sure, it's all about dropping value. But we also have to force ourselves to be sort of the thought leaderish people that can actually provide them value or new insights or things we learn at our customers or whatever. So yeah, I mean, game on, if you want a community, you're absolutely right. Make sure to create value. If you don't create value, then of course nobody's logging in or checking the Slack channel, for example. I completely agree with you. Then we have our merch, of course. You can see it on the camera, but behind you there are Noco hoodies and t-shirts and whatever. You know, we can do something with merch, and definitely collaborations. I love throwing one of the good community members in the mix in a project sometimes. Not necessarily because you have to, but because the project has certain characteristics that where you say, okay, that might be a good match for that dude or girl to contribute.
Yeah.
Because it could give a little edge. We could sort of experiment and see how the collaboration goes. I don't know, man. I just love to keep things a little bit vibrant.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. But there's also other ways. I mean, I was thinking about this whole this website that I know about Off Grid.
Yeah.
I think you know it as well. But it's basically, well, they say discover top-notch design. So like a bunch of designers just drop their work on there. They curate it. The best stuff floats to the top. So it's just like a way to...
That's a nice concept.
Yeah, so you can also think of something like that. That might be, I don't know, like you're also building a community at the same time. You're also like showing it off, you know, like it also has some value to the rest of the world. There might be like clever ways to tackle this.
Yeah, I would love to look into concepts like that as well. And here it's also about, you know, like you mentioned with building the funnels or doing the distribution founder content strategy. It's all about just getting started. So I'm just talking to people, inviting them, you know, engaging with them, looking at their work, they're looking at our work, starting.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you have to have this instinctive feel for what gets traction and where's more to gain. So it's for me it's a never ending. It's not a project with a head and a tail. It's just an ongoing, infinite process.
Yeah.
Just, you know, engaging with people like you do in life. Like when you go out, I love to engage with people, talk to people, meet new people. Here in Amsterdam, I mean, we give the expat community a lot of shit because, you know, English is now the main language instead of Dutch, right? But then again, I also find a lot of value in it because it sort of broadens my horizon by just simply talking to people. Like last month or so, I was sitting at my favorite coffee spot doing some work, and I met this guy from Jordan, who was a super interesting guy. I felt like we had a lot in common, and we had like a great, solid 20-minute convo, and exchanged, contact details and stay in touch. So yeah, man, I just love to engage with people and learn from them. There's so much to learn, and it's all, you know, it's almost all the time it's self-inflicted, right? So this goes for a lot of things. There's all the opportunity you have to learn from people, to engage, to find new people to do new stuff with. You're never alone, but you sometimes you think you're alone. So there's always like-minded people that see what you see, or that see you for what you are, or see something special in you, and vice versa, and that want to they also dream of a little bit more freedom, for example, and just building something real. But if you have to keep your mind open, and just keep talking to people, and that's what I try to do. But I also have my days and weeks where I'm not really, you know, I'm just very much to myself. And I get a little bit of a closed off mind, but I always try to open it up again. I never try to disregard people like at first glance or something. That's tempting.
It's a Decel mindset.
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm guilty of it too. That's why I'm so...
It happens quite a bit to myself, you know, like every freaking morning you go to the office, the whole center is just packed with vans, and like it's... Dude, I get frustrated in the morning. Just by going here, I'm already, shit.
Amsterdam is wild.
Because of this like ride to the office, I got into this state of mind. I need to also like switch out of it every now and then. But yeah, you're right. Everyone has it. It's important to at least know when you're in there. But then like regarding the talking to people offline, I mean, again, same example. I know how that works. I do it all the time. But then at the same time, I also feel like the game that is being played right now and maybe also like a little bit of. I mean, Amsterdam is an amazing city, but it's not that large. It's not like the most thriving city when it comes down to the business we operate in, the domain we operate in. I realize more and more that focusing mostly on like the local stuff is like preventing us from reaching full potential, you know, whether it's in like terms of network, capabilities, customers, people you work with, people that you work with that become friends or like become friends just because of your, like, I don't know, whatever interaction on X or whatever. For me, it's still like I made the shift in my head, in my mind, but I still need to like, I'm still getting used to like, what is the best way to do this? You know, like I have no clue because it's not as natural to me as it is to sit down in a coffee place and strike a conversation with someone, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Definitely something to explore more, actually, that topic for another time, because I have a question for you. So what people don't know about you is what I find one of the most funniest things about you, Wes, and also one of the most interesting things. It gives me equal parts laughs and equal parts learnings, is that you have been deep. You can go deep into this whole esoteric, this whole esoteric space of health and nutrition, and sometimes a good conspiracy theory. Why not? So every time or every week that I meet you at the office and stuff like that, you almost always have like a new angle or a new esoteric health thing that you're trying and stuff like that. And it always makes me chuckle, even though many times it's actually super interesting and I'm trying it myself or whatever. So it's again, equal parts laughs, equal parts learnings. So what is your, I want to make this sort of a recurring theme in the podcast. What is your latest esoteric health rabbit hole that you dove in? And educate us.
You're putting a lot of pressure on me right now because now I need to come up with something every week.
No, you don't, because
although it's not that hard, but I do like a good esoteric Twitter scroll. You know, like there's a lot of stuff to find out there.
Yep.
But the latest thing I've learned, that's definitely the magnesium and baking soda. For in your bathtub.
Here we go.
For in your bathtub. I tried it yesterday and I slept like an absolute beast. So I was quite stressed after this whole week because we did a lot, long days. Then yesterday was chaos. I had a lot of stress in my body. I could just feel it. And a couple days before, I read this tweet from this like girl Veronica. I don't know her handle right now.
I actually know her.
But you got her handle there? Yeah, it doesn't matter. But anyhow, she was tweeting about this that she bought like baking soda and magnesium in bulk. So she just bought like 5 kilogram buckets. So I was like, okay, yeah, well, I read this before. Maybe I should just order. So I went to bol.com, you know, like the Dutch Amazon. Bought those buckets. I came in yesterday and I was feeling quite stressed. So I filled up the bathtub and I put like, I don't know, like 300-400 grams of each in the bathtub. Laid in it for an hour. And this morning I woke up. I was like, holy shit. I feel
rejuvenated.
Like I slept like a baby, man.
All right. So for the people who have no idea what we're talking about here, Wes is talking about Epsom salt.
It is Epsom salt.
And baking soda bath. So you put it in your bathtub. And just to give you some context, an Epsom salt and baking soda bath is popular for several wellness benefits due to the unique properties of each ingredient.
I didn't check that. You
just did it because it's catchy and esoteric.
I just read the tweet.
Yeah, I'm just trying to underpin it with some science here.
Thank you.
Muscle relaxation and pain relief. Detoxification, skin health, stress relief, balancing pH levels, very important, of course. And it pretty much checked out with how you've experienced it.
Okay.
Yeah, now I heard about it, and it's maybe worth a try. I actually, in my current apartment, I do not have a bathtub. I had one in my former, but never tried it. So for the next home, I will try it. I've looked into it in the past myself. I believe in it. So for example, that's why they always used to say in the old days, when someone was sick, you need to take some time off and go to the sea, right? Because of course the sea, the salt, all the magnesium, the electrolytes in the water, in the air, it sticks to your skin, it gets absorbed by your skin. So the sea, being at the sea was considered a healthy thing, a therapeutic.
Yeah, you notice it, man. Like,
absolutely.
Go there, you notice it. Just as like walking on your grass barefoot.
Grounding, there we go.
You notice it. You notice it immediately. Like, and people can call you kooky just because you believe that. But like everyone that takes off their shoes, you walk on the grass, you feel it. Same counts for like going to the beach. Walk around there for like 1-2 hours, and you come back and you just like all of a sudden you feel more relaxed. It's not just the walk. I mean, obviously as well.
Definitely healing powers there for grounding and being at the beach, or grounding at the beach, of course. All right. So if you want to learn more about Wes, his esoteric adventures, you can actually follow him on X. His name is Wes Botman. We'll link it in the description, but it's Wes Botman, just like you say it. If you want to follow me on X for other cool stuff.
That one is more difficult.
It's a little bit more difficult, but my ad is Lamswol Prins. I will link it as well. So hope to see you there. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We're doing our best, and we're iterating this every time, just like we do our businesses. And then at some point, hopefully we can deliver some value to Lou. But I hope that we maybe did that today a little bit already. Any last words from you, Wes?
Same day next week, I guess.
All right. See you there.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao.